all. First item on the agenda, Mayor's welcome and announcements. Welcome, everybody. Good to see we've got a good audience, yes, with us this evening. It's great to be getting out and about and around town again. I've had my vaccine, so I'm not quite in the lockdown I was in. And it's nice to be around town and seeing people and chatting to them. Some of whom I've not seen probably since last February. So that's good. I'm sure everyone here will join me in extending our deepest sympathy to the royal family and the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip. Councillor Farmer and I put up a gazebo outside of the council chamber, and there has been a memorial book there for people to sign for the last week or so. I'm guessing we'll be taking that down over the next couple of days. So if you haven't had an opportunity to sign it and wish to do so, it's outside of the council chamber on a table. Thanks very much for Gareth and Charlie, our town hall manager, for kind of making arrangements and setting stuff up, and for Charlie, who's been putting the book out at 9 o'clock each morning and taking it in at 3 o'clock. So thank you for that. I'll leave it there for another couple of days. I was fortunate earlier on in the month to be invited as mayor to help plant the first fruit tree in the Cyngor orchard, and I'd like to thank Councillor Haddy for funding the project. Hopefully, as lockdown eases, there will be a few more events that I can come along and help with. The trips and falls over recent weeks have been shocking and alarming, really. And I'm sure everyone will join me in wishing those involved and those who have had accidents a speedy recovery. I have, for the last 4 weeks, perhaps, since our last meeting, I guess, been in almost daily contact, and I've spoken to our county councillors, and I've spoken on the phone to officers as well, and have been kept updated by Denbighshire officers and our county councillors as to what the solutions might be. Our two county councillors have worked really hard on this. I know they have, because I've spoken to them on a daily basis over the last 4 weeks, looking for solutions to the problem that we've had in Castle Street. They've been working with officers and have been acting on their best advice. Over the last few weeks, several solutions have been tried to resolve the problems in Castle Street. Hopefully, now the planters which are being placed in situ at the moment will help solve the problem, and will hopefully alleviate the problem whilst meeting the ongoing need for social distancing. Over the last weekend and the days leading up to it, when the sunshine was out, we have had a lot more people in Llangollen, and when I've been in town, they have been making use of the opportunities for social distance. So hopefully the planters will work, and that covers what I've got to say. We now have statements from the public. I don't know whether anybody's got anything they want to say.
I'll just ping people out of the audience, and if they wish to put their hands up, I'd advise them to mute their microphones in order to hear anything untoward happening. So if there's anybody there now that wishes, anybody out there that wishes to speak, I take it.
Doesn't look to be going.
Okay, that's fine.
To receive presentations is Peter Evans with us.
No, unfortunately, he couldn't make it after all. I have sent an email, but I'm not sure if it's the right one. I'll come on to that a bit later.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully he'll be able to attend a meeting in the near future. Just to remind everybody, he's basically the new sergeant that is managing policing in Llangollen and the surrounding areas. County Councillor statement.
Chairman, we were going to have a presentation from Councillor Tony Thomas, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. He's asked if he could attend next month, which I don't see a problem, and obviously this is the slot for County Council's presentation, so he would have spoken here. I don't know if Councillor Ryan has anything to add.
Alvin?
Is Graham here?
Can't see him in the audience now.
Well, basically, other than what's been going on the main street, nothing to report really. It all seems to have been, well, it's kind of resolved now, as Shem has just said. You've got the planters in place. Obviously very sorry about the accident and hope everyone gets better. And that's it, really.
Okay.
Anybody got any questions? Stuart?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Melvin. Or Councillor Mile. On the, let's have a look. March the 30th, I think it was, there was a joint statement made by the county councillors. The Castle Street controversial bollards had to go and be replaced with specially designed planters. Can you tell us more about the special design of these planters and what makes them suitable and safe for use? Thank you.
Originally, they were speaking of putting just regular planters in, which would have been sort of loose, if you know what I mean, just laying on the ground, which wouldn't really have been very suitable in case a vehicle were to hit them. So these planters are secured to the ground and then filled, so they are considered fit for purpose. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. Could I just come back on that, Chair? We've done some digging, and I say we, and have found out that they are in actual fact called Buxus planters, and they're just ordinary corner garden things that you can buy for your house and to put in your garden. And having looked at one, and you know, Councillor Mile, that I'm an ex-engineer, they're just flimsy fiberglass and just 2 bolts, 1/2-inch bolts or 12mm bolts holding them. And this afternoon, some people were seen to be leaning against them and they moved. So I'm awfully sorry, Councillor Mile, they don't look as if they are specially designed for the job. And I have asked for, under a Freedom of Information request, to see where the risk assessment is for the use of these. I do hope that they're going to be better than the system that was put in before by our engineers who said that been risk assessed and were okay. I do hope these are okay, because we, as you and the Mayor have said, we don't want to see any more of what went on happening again. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Can I perhaps ask you, Melvin, to select your councillors the risk assessments which have been undertaken?
Yeah, well, the obviously the highway engineers made risk assessments of the bollards. They made risk assessments, and I've made risk assessments on these planters. You know, they are, as I understand it, and I will check with them again, Councillor Davis.
Thank you.
They're considered fit for purpose for the job in hand. I'm not an engineer, and I don't have any health and safety qualifications, but I will accept that given by qualified engineers. Cheers.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, Councillor Timms has arrived now. I'll bring him up to proceed if you don't mind. Sorry, Councillor Chamonix.
Sorry, what was then, Gareth?
Councillor Graham Timms has now arrived. I don't know if you want it. I'll bring him up.
Councillor Timms?
Hi, apologies for that. Problem connecting.
Okay. Mel is stood in your stead, and we've had a conversation about the planters. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I just caught the very end.
I think we've resolved that, yes?
Yeah, I just caught the very end of that, and that's exactly right what Mel was saying about. We've been assured by the county council, who've been assured by the people who make these things that they're suitable for purpose. We don't want to see anything like we've seen over the last few weeks again, and so we're pleased that the work's going ahead now, and hopefully it will be a much better system than the previous one, and we won't see people tripping over them. I don't know what else Mel said about county council business, whether he said other things as well.
I just said that there was nothing much else to report other than what we got in Llangollen, really.
Yeah, it's been fairly quiet time, hasn't it, the last for other places because of the Easter holidays. I think the chief exec finished since the last meeting, which people will have read about in the newspapers, but there's nothing else to say on that. Have you mentioned about the parking, Mel, the extra parking?
No, you go ahead with that, Graham.
Okay. What we did when we were talking to the road safety and parking team, we've been asking for a long time if they can put some pop and shop parking in Market Street after the places were lost on Castle Street. They've agreed to do that, and it's going to happen, we understand, by the end of May. So it'll be, we think, half an hour parking for people to go shopping, just to pop in local shops and so on. And that's, I think, the only other thing.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Timms, you say suitable for purpose, these planters. I'm sure, did you get the back end of that? They're just bog standard garden things. I found them on the website. I'll send a link to all you councillors in a few minutes by email. And so I'd like to see, if I could, Councillor Timms, the risk assessment that was done to make sure that they are, as you say, suitable for purpose. The word of an engineer, I'm sorry, in the industry I used to work in, you had to have double, triple, treble evidence of it. So I'd like to see a copy of that evidence, if I could, please. And then you say the extra parking in Market Street for pop and shop. I'm still concerned about the disabled people not being able to park on Castle Street to get across to the bank and to the butchers and to the newsagents. I've had lots of complaints about that, not being able to do it. And to ask them to walk from Market Street or even from Bridge Street is a step too far. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I caught what Mel said about highways engineers and so on. We're obviously not. We have to go on what we're told. We're told that these are going to be suitable, and so we have to go along with that. In terms of, there's been some comments about something that I said very, very early on, because when I first said about getting rid of the parking on Castle Street, we said straight away, well, let's have some planters along the edge of the street, and that will make the street look good, and it will close off the parking and give that extra room that we need for social distancing. What we were told at that time was that if you wanted to put a wooden planter in, that would not be permitted because a wooden planter would slide if a vehicle hit it. These planters, so we understand, are fixed to the street and they are not able to slide in the same way that wooden trough full of compost would be able to do so. And so in terms of risk assessments, and that's something that's the county council thing, which I would think there would be available, as you say, if you do a freedom of information. But we don't have the actual document, but we've been assured that they are fit for this purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Timms. I'm sorry I'm going to keep on about this, but if you're going to make decisions about things, you should be able to be assured, and there should have been a risk assessment done. I will again repeat, I will send a copy of or a link to the website where these things are advertised. They're bog standard garden things, they're nothing special, and in fact all it refers to is a 2-inch hole that you can knock out so that they can drain. The bit about them being bolted to the road, I had a look at them today, 12 mil screws, basically an oversized roll plug, and from an engineering point of view, not fit for purpose. So again, we can talk all we like, and I don't intend to go on about this anymore, but somewhere there should be a risk assessment, and I would like to see a copy of that, please. Thank you.
Kim?
I'll repeat as well that, if the risk assessment is available and it's sent to all councillors, that would be great. We can all have a look at it then. Yeah?
Thank you, Chair.
Apologies for absence.
None, Chairman, and I would remind members this is your last opportunity, although most of you are here, to blame technology. On the next month, we're under the Local Government Elections Act jurisdiction, and doesn't allow any apologies for technology. On
that basis, I'm guessing that Councillor Baker gets a 3B for the last time. Yeah,
I think this is his last. last chance.
Okay. Declarations of interest. Thank you. Minutes. Authorise the minutes of previous meetings of Town Council held on the 16th of March as a set record. Anybody like to propose? Councillor Haddy, Councillor Brindley, thank you. Anybody? No, everybody in favour, thank you. Financial, is that the only one? Right.
No,
to see minutes of the Asset Management Committee held on the 8th of December. Councillor Haddy.
Councillor Chairman, the asset management held on the 8th of December was recorded in the minutes we've just approved, so they've already been dealt with at our last meeting. So, Mr. Clark might comment on that.
It must just be a typographic error, one of my dyslexic moments.
But the minutes in your bundle were as described, but we approved them last month.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, John. Approve the minutes of the Chichester Committee held on the 9th of December. Anybody like to? Yeah. Proposed by Robin LeBlanc. Melvin, thank you. Anybody? No. Okay. Thank you. Financial reports.
Yes, Chairman. On the authorised payments, I would like to. It says with confidence, but it's not there. I was hoping to share. There are some changes to the payments, largely due to I changed the format, you may see, to allegedly easy to look at, and as a consequence, things dropped off the end. So in addition is Mr. S. Johnson storage hire, which is an ongoing standing order. There are also changes to the staff salaries and consequently PAYE. As it's an open meeting, I'll just explain that I noticed when the current pay slips came through that an underpayment had been made last year on a member of staff, of 20 pence. They had read across the financial tables were sent to them, and they had read across and had put it at a 0.5 instead of a 0.6. So it's a 20p times the hours, which is about a £200 underpayment, and that member of staff has been made aware of that, and unfortunately doesn't wish to sort of charge us any interest on underpayment. So that's why there's a slight adjustment to the figures. So that now includes that overpayment, which subsequently shows slightly more HMRC charges. That's PAYE and national insurance for this year. So I'm just pointing that out. Obviously, under the contract, we have to pay the rate agreed, and that was an oversight, so we've corrected it, and the member of staff is quite happy with that now. The rest really are as they are, except for G. Roberts painting. Again, that had overwritten copying across last month's figures. It is for painting this month, and it's down to 1120. I put in the figure from last month, another dyslexic moment. And that was now finishing all the painting on the rear stairwell. And when you get a chance, I would highly recommend you go in and have a look, because it is quite transformational, I think. It shows how, shall I say, grubby the back stairs were. It's really improved the building no end. So the rest, things like Morgan's Decorators, Lily Rose Interiors, that's ongoing costs for the refurbishment of the balcony. And as I say, they will be recovered by granting aid or donations from a benefactor and some support from the Friends of the Town Hall. Otherwise, we've got some standard things like the membership fee, One Voice Wales, and down below you can see the various electricity charges that are due for payment. Unless there's any other questions, or somebody could propose.
Anybody got any questions? I can't see you all, so yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one. Where are we with rent payments at the moment?
Rent payments, and obviously both all shops and the offices are back in business. We're due a rent payment at the end of the month, so I'll have to see that they're now paying their rent. And I'm also in the process of us negotiating or advising them how they're going to repay us the lost rental for last year. As I said at the last meeting, it's not a matter of forgetting the rent. The rent has to be paid, and I will be pointing out to individuals, we accept it was a difficult time, but in essence, the ratepayers have forgotten the rent for the last 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, Councillor Palmer.
Cathedral Leasing Limited. Could you just expand on what is that supply of hygiene services?
It's for disposal of ladies' accoutrements, shall we say, in various toilets.
Okay, right, thank you.
Which we have to have. We have to have them in all the toilets.
Yes, I realise that.
Anybody else? Thank you. I apologise if I'm fiddling. I'm having difficulty with the sound, so I can't hear people very clearly.
Can I ask the clerk to return the screen back to normal, because it's a bit odd at the moment?
Yep. Gareth?
Yeah, I do want to go to something else after.
Yeah. Okay.
Proposed and seconded then, Chelsea Chairman.
Yeah, somebody would like to propose that? Melvin, thank you. Peter, thank you. All those in favour? Anybody not in favour, we decided we did, didn't we? All right, everybody's, unanimous, thank you. Okay, Gareth?
Yeah, financial statement. I'd just also like to run through this if I can get it.
Yeah, fine.
Oops, sorry, that's not it. It's this one.
Gareth, I wonder if you could speak up a bit, because your deep baritone doesn't come across to me very well.
That's okay, I'll shout. Just by way of introduction, and something I've noticed when this has been set, there's now nipping, so I'll have to get back to Scribe. These are our new Scribe accounts. They've now been set up, as you can see, and the various headings alphabetically at the moment. There are different ways that we can project this, but this will give you obviously the starting position for this financial year. So it's split into cost centres.
Power on.
Yeah, so you've got administration going right through there, asset management. Obviously, left-hand side is a receipt. If there is a receipt, right-hand side is payments. But obviously, at the moment, no payments have been made. Capital financing, community, which due to grants, donations, chips, though. Cost of democracy, running through there. Obviously, mayor's allowance, you resolved not to do it last month, so therefore it doesn't appear. Energy costs, income then, as you see, that's on the left-hand side. And again, nothing coming in as of yet, not even the precept at the end of the month. Office supplies are shown, and there is a variance there because we're budgeting 75% for printing. Some users outside use a photocopier, and obviously we've not received any of that as well. Now there are lots of different ways of cutting the cake, as it were, but at the moment this is just for you to have the holding position going forward in terms of various ways of showing the cost. This seems to be the simplest. If members want it in more detail, I can always provide a full set of printouts at any time. The salaries are now lumped because of the way it all works in and then forms into the next item on the agenda, which is the annual return, which I'll show you in a minute. But that's just to show you the financial statement. Obviously, nothing gone out yet, so we're all in a standstill position, but this is a way to be reported from that forward. On the finances, back-to-back reconciliation, so at the close of the financial year, you can see that we started with £40,305 in the account, and we finished with 55. So there's a need of 15,000 in the general reserve, and then we would have to have a debate about whether normally we would transfer the project costs from last year across to asset repair and renewal, and I'll bring a report to that in May to confirm all those payments. I'd just like to draw your attention to the 124,431.74. It's not a quiz, but if you could try and remember it roughly, it's important for the next presentation, Chairman. So that's the financial position. Again, if anybody could propose and second that, or if they would ask any questions. I want to leave it, if I can leave it up for a minute, because the next, rather than cut back, the next slide is for the next item. So.
Any questions? Do we need to propose and second? Yeah?
There is a typo on the Llangollen in the title in those accounts.
You said that.
I said that's been set up.
Oh, right, missed that, sorry.
That's like for them to sort that out. I'll get back to Scribe to sort that out.
Anybody like to propose and accept that?
Proposed.
Thank you. Proposed by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Luke. Thank you.
Okay. The reason I'm highlighting the 124,431 is the next item. It's that time of year again, and we're at the process now of moving into audit. So I'll just quickly show you that obviously normally the chair or town mayor would be in to have a look at the accounts. We're not able to do that, so I just want to show that the rounded up figure 124,423 are the balances being carried forward, which is, as I said, the figure above 124,431.74 rounded up. So just to show that everything balances, as I said earlier, the beauty of the new software that all these boxes will automatically be filled in next year, I hope. And there will be no need for me to do it manually, and that's why the Scribe system reflects. If you see total expenditure made on behalf of employees, including salaries and wages, PAE and NI, pension contribution, so that they are lumped as salary costs, and therefore automatically feed into that going forward. The reason I'm bringing this forward is, as you can see, I've signed this just myself at the moment, and this is now ready to be presented to our internal auditor. They've already done a lot of preliminary work on the accounts. I've had to scan and send sample accounts to them. They've had all our current cash flow forecast. Sorry, forgotten the word. Never mind. Current cash stock, sorry, and all the obviously all the various bank accounts, and they're carrying out due diligence. They've been directed to all our minutes, agendas, and all policies, etc., on the website. So we've done quite a lot more than we did last year remotely, and we're awaiting that interim audit. And now we're in a position now to send this to them so that they can fill in. Sorry, I'm scrolling around like a lunatic. That they have to then complete, as you know, the internal audit report here. So it's just to let you know that the process is up and running, and hopefully we will get this obviously back for approval in the near future. And hopefully that will mean that for next year, which is important, if we get a clear bill of health, as it were, we will be in a position to go forward to look at taking on the general power of competence from May next year. So I hope that we get through the audit.
I'll see you, Gareth. I don't know anybody else.
No?
Anybody else having difficulty hearing Gareth?
Just towards the end, it went a bit quiet.
Sorry, I don't know what it is this semester. I'm just saying that hopefully, with all that in place, if we get a clean bill of health, that'll give us, allow us to then, this time next year, be in a position to declare ourselves a council that can hold general power of competence. So it is important that we get a clean bill of health this year. So fairly confident because it's gone quite smoothly, and it's just we've still got the external audit to get through, and don't forget that's now through Audit Wales direct, but we've already had all the paperwork for now, and it's just a matter of going through the process, and hopefully it'll all be done by June and get it signed off by the due dates necessary.
Do I need to get this digital signature, Gareth? Perhaps if you send it to me, I can.
I might email you that. Yeah, it might be useful, and I'll ask the Councillor Haddy for perhaps other matters. But
keep it all above board. Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, we don't need it yet because we haven't signed it off. But we may be in a position.
You just email it to me when you need to, and then I can acknowledge I've received it and approve it. Thank you. Anybody got any questions? Proposed and seconded, we accept the audit going forward.
I'll propose it.
Melvin, thank you. Councillor Keddy, thank you.
Chairman.
Town clerk's reports.
No, planning first, Chairman.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I've got my papers mixed up.
Planning.
Planning, okay. Thank you, Councillor Keddy. Should we start with 0973?
0973, yeah. Certainly, Chair. 3 Carrigas Lane. For those of you who don't know, these are the little houses on the riverbank by the park. This is the very final, the last one of them before the path takes you on to the Aldi steps. So it's not overlooked from anybody apart from the other side of the A5, which is across the Aldi car park. So it doesn't affect anybody's view. The extension is essentially replacing the existing conservatory with a first floor balcony overlooking the river, which would be very, very nice, above an extended kitchen. And then there is another additional balcony that goes out at first floor level, which again is about 6 or 8 foot above the river. That's only about 1 metre wide, but that gives you access around the side of the property. There's no, from an ecological impact, there's no evidence of bats, birds or rare species there. No objections from the AOMB, apart from the rendered finish they would like to see in matching with what's there. And the highways are only concerned that the footpath, because it is used, doesn't get blocked during construction works. So, as far as I can see, I can't see there being any grounds for objection there.
Anybody got any comment?
Move.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Seconded, Councillor Mile. 0359 to Lavon Villa.
That's all I want. That's it. Again, this is very straightforward. Putting steps down to the cellar for an access point down there. I can't see any reason for objection. They are doing some driveway works there as well, but again, it's porous surfaces they put on, so there's no collection of water, no extra drainage or anything to worry about. So again, I can't see any problems there at all.
That was all. Councillor Hadi, was that, sorry? Anybody, any objections? No, thank you. Councillor Loeb, opposed? No objections. Seconded. Councillor Palmer, thank you very much. 0370, works of trees.
That's it, the trees. I haven't had a chance to go up and have a look, but there's a 32-page report being done. I found it quite comical that the tree surgeon who did it was Stephen Cutwell. So if he cuts as well as he writes, I think it'll be a great job if he does it. But basically, it's removal of a sycamore and the crowning of a horse chestnut for safety reasons.
Okay.
Move.
We haven't seen any statutory reports on them yet. I presume there will be some.
They were subject to a preservation order in 1990 from Glenville District Council. As far as I'm aware, since the Maes Herrig has all changed up there now with the new development, the sycamore could pose a danger to road users, which is why it's coming down, or why it's been advised to come down. And they think they can save the horse chestnut by crowning it rather than taking it down. That doesn't pose a problem to highways, but it is on public land where somebody could be picnicking.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering, are there statutory reports that need to be done from the County Council or the OMB or anyone like that? Because we don't know what their recommendations are yet, if there are statutory reports to be done.
Right, okay, they will recommend directly to planning. I don't think we have any overriding
okay.
say on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, my only concern is if they're taking trees down, are they going to replace them?
Right. Again, I think that's beyond our remit, isn't it?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
It's beyond our remit. The County Council, sorry to put in there, Chair, the County Council is the authority that makes the decision. We are just advisory. So the County Council does all the statutory work or gets all the statutory responses together. So when it comes before the County Council, I think, is Councillor Mile on it now? He will see the stuff and the final decision will be made there. Ours is just an advisory.
Okay.
Chairman, if Carol, sorry, if Councillor Carroll does wish to say we would like to see replacement, if possible within the site, that's not an unreasonable comment or consultation.
Yeah, if we can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So
we could say
and I'd second.
No objection, but would like to see the planting of compensatory trees for those removed. Okay.
Thank you very much, Gareth. There was one other, I think, that we were notified of.
There is, yes. 0310, Camor Fechan, Maes Mawr Road, Llangollen. And that's a change of use, an alteration to part of the ground floor. Now, basically, all it's doing is blocking off a doorway in a hall and then making a bedroom and a kitchen or a study into a self-contained flat. I can't see any problems with it because on one of the plans, the original plan, or the existing plan as is, sorry, it shows there's parking for 7 cars and it's not a huge property. So I think there's plenty of parking and anything like that. Again, it doesn't alter the fabric of the building on the outside or the look of the building, so I can't see anything we can object on.
Okay, thank you. Any objections? Right, thank you. Certificates of decision.
Just one, Chairman, that you have to note. For
Yeah.
okay. And we've had no plan correspondence, Chair.
Correspondence. Town clerk's report.
Yes, I hope you can hear me better. The microphone was turned down. Don't know how that happened. Probably somebody told me to shut up last time I was on. The first report from youth representatives, we've had a very good response considering the response we've had in the past. As I said, four individuals have come forward and 4 very good present applications completed. And as I said in the report, I think to give them all justice and all the chance to put their case over, what I'm suggesting is that we give them 5 minutes each to do a short presentation, maximum 5 minutes, I think, and so that we don't waste any time, do that before the annual meeting, because we're back to annual meeting time in May. And if members are happy, we would start that at, say, 20 to 6, so that we don't delay things. I will send out all the paperwork in advance for you to see in advance, and then perhaps between or at the end of the annual meeting and between the start of the next general meeting, we could vote on the 2 candidates we'd like to bring forward. And if they're still around, then they could come straight onto the meeting. So that's how I'm proposing it. If members are happy, as I said, it's very gratifying to get a response like this, because we've tried for years since we had 2.
Are they going to be allowed to give a presentation, visual presentation, a PowerPoint? Whether they are or not, they need to know. That's basically what I'm saying.
And it's entirely up to you, members. If you feel they need a PowerPoint, I was just expecting them to, almost like a university, interview. Tell us what you expect out of this, and that kind of a format. Not just a short presentation on their personal skills and why they think they would be a good youth rep. That's entirely up to you.
I do have to say, Gareth, that I've got a niece who recently went for an interview to university and did a PowerPoint type presentation as part of her interview.
It's a long time since I was in university, Chairman, that's right.
But it's just, I'm not recommending them to do it. It's just that they know whether they can or not, to make it clear.
Yeah, okay, well, I will explain in the invitation that they can if they so wish. I mean, the only thing is, as I've said, as you recall from our public participation exercise, I see Councillor Lovett wants to come in, so I'll be as quick as I can. We tend not to allow it there because some people aren't as proficient as others at doing PowerPoint presentations, and therefore, we always say that could influence, decisions. So that's the only proviso that's what we use there. But I'm quite happy to include if members want that to happen.
Councillor Lovelock. Can't hear you, Robin.
Mute.
Thanks. I think what Gareth suggested about providing some guiding questions to steer their direction. So kind of I thought the idea of what they want to get out of this and what they think they can contribute, maybe 2 of those. And then I would maybe include a statement saying it's their choice whether they wish to just give a presentation verbally or use a PowerPoint, and leave it to whether they do or not. Then you've not disadvantaged anybody. So.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
I'd just like to say, wish them the very best of luck, because I think it's fantastic, as Gareth said, that we've got some youth who are actually interested in boring politics or local town politics, if you like. And good luck, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else like to comment? All right. Anybody like to propose the accept that? You, Councillor Haddy, Councillor Palmer, thank you very much. Anybody object? No? Fine, thank you.
Okay. I know some of the representatives are here tonight this evening, but I'll formally let them know on our proposal. It is nice, especially as I got an apology from one tonight because he's got his physics exam coming up, and he apologised. He didn't think he might have the time to attend the meeting, so I thought that was quite nice. Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Next item is Chisso Committee. As you know, they don't have delegated powers, so therefore decisions have to come back. And following the last meeting, it's a fairly simple report outlining that clearly we felt collectively, the Royal We, that it was quite a successful series of webinars, and there's a desire to do them again and look at how we take some of the actions forward. And the other was that it seemed to be throughout the processes of the previous networking sessions and during the seminars or webinars, rather, this view that we can't all rely on Facebook and social media, and I think there's a desire to continue some form of newsletter. And in the report, I point out that, you know, the one that we produced before by the council has not necessarily been missed during lockdown because we didn't produce it. But the numbers coming back from the various outlets had diminished, you know, or the take-up had diminished, and we're getting more coming back. So I think it does need a refresh. So therefore, if the Chitstow can use the mechanism in a far better way, then I think it's an appropriate time for that to happen. And I think the idea is they'll use the interactive pages from the website to be able to generate stories and create others going along. I don't know if the chair or the vice chair wants to say anything on that. Is there anything to add?
Correct me if I'm wrong. The idea really is to perhaps give people a window on what we're doing a little bit, but also to give a vehicle for groups and the community to kind of let each other know what's happening and what they're doing. As Gareth said, when we had our meetings, when we actually met in person, it was something that was that frequently came up in terms of people's requests. And also when we had our webinars, it was mentioned, I think several times, that a newsletter would be good just to celebrate what we are doing as a community, but also to perhaps alert people to things that are happening. Yes, Robin.
Thank you, Chair. And exactly as you say, and then particularly for those younger members that are keen to join or interested in town activities, the website, although it's down for repair at the moment, but the website's been designed to be interactive in a kind of community journalism kind of way, so people can easily access the site, upload their news stories, a picture, and then as the Chitstow Committee, we can download those quickly, put them into a format for printing, and get the stories out. I know previous publications in the town have struggled with with gathering the stories. So we hope that that's a way that we can address that without too big a time burden on any individual.
I think it's worth noting, though, that what we're talking about is not revamping and reproducing the D-Valley news that used to be. What we're thinking about is perhaps an A3 sheet, is it folded in half, or perhaps even just an A4 sheet on both sides, so it won't be massive. Yes, Councillor Haddy.
On a very slightly different note, can I say hello to Councillor Baker, who has overcome his technological problems and was with us at last.
That's true, absolutely true, yes.
Welcome, Councillor Baker. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chairman, if somebody could recommend the three recommendations that obviously we undertake a further series of webinars in the autumn. Space it out a bit more, I think we agreed. that we'll set up a task and finish group to oversee that, to make sure we get it right and start earlier. Some of the Chichester Committee be mandated to consider appropriate mechanisms to take forward some needs we identified during the last series of webinars, and that they take over responsibility for the content, publication and distribution of the newsletter.
Happy to propose that, all three.
Councillor Hardy, thank you. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Niall, thank you. Anybody not in favour? Thank you.
Next item, Chairman, is a climate and ecological emergency action plan. It's following on from our declaration, and this is really, as you probably wouldn't expect any different, hot potato in terms of town and community councils across UK at the moment. Had a session when I was at the virtual conference at the beginning of the year, and had a very good presentation from a councillor in the Cotswolds. And from that, I've looked at the various aspects that are coming forward via other councils, etc., and have produced this plan. The idea of the plan is that it's our plan, as it were, for the actions the town council can do. As it said, we've got limited powers and finance really to really influence individual actions, and that's very much for the responsibility of those individuals concerned. But the one thing we can do is lead by example. So this is an attempt, shall I say, to identify the things within the action plan that we can move forward on, and I think the preamble is self-explanatory. I'm happy if members want to add to this either tonight or after the meeting. I mean, as I say, it's including, but it's not an exhaustive list of the action plan, which I've now lost. Sorry, trying to be clever running two things here. But what we've done, or I've done, is divided the short, medium and long term. So short term are within the next 6 months. So those would include things like the constant review of how we operate in the office. It's very cold if you go in there at the moment because we haven't put the heating on, because there's obviously no need. Using, obviously, continuing our use of environmental sustainable cleaning materials, making sure that everybody uses the crockery we've got, try to reduce the use of plastic free and all those elements. So it's very much short-term actions, are those which we may be doing already or which to aspire to do as soon as possible. One being, and this will come back to asset management, an example being the suitable renewable energy supplier. The energy contract on the square finished this month, and given that it's very low usage, and in fact we could, if we so wish, switch off the lights as well, or reduce the time they're on during the summer months. I think it's safe enough, as it were, to go to a non-standard tariff for the interim. And in the meantime, I've gone to a number of suppliers, but unfortunately one's only come back. So using recommended brokerage via SLCC, they are now looking into a number of green supplies, and we'll be bringing those to asset management to make a decision, hopefully either the end of this month or at least early May, so that we can get the contract in place for Centenary Square, and the others all change in September. So that's one example where we will go to green suppliers. The other one is looking at our banking arrangements. I know Councillor Carroll's been keen on this, and we've looked at Triodos Bank, but they don't seem to be taking on any new accounts at the moment. But there is Unity Bank and others which we could look at. So again, that's something we need to bring to the council's attention. So the idea is that those short-term things will be done within 6 months, and then thereafter we've got the medium term, and then, as I say, much longer-term activities going forward. So I won't not necessarily bore members with going through all the detail, but if there's any questions or observations, I'll be happy to take them on board and include them. Chairman's disappeared, so we just noticed. I'll bring him back up. There he is.
Whereabouts are we now? Right, Councillor Farmer.
On there, Gareth, you've got about refilling bottles. I think we should also encourage businesses, although it's obviously their decision of what to do. But some businesses do with takeaway coffees, and they charge a little less if you bring your own mug. So I think encouraging that would be a contribution to that.
I think, John, it works better the other way round. From comments on research I've seen, if you charge more, if they don't, you get better take up.
I think those are things, obviously we're talking about seminars and webinars to encourage change. This would be making sure that we reduce plastic use, as a town council and people using the town building. I think that's, as I said, this plan is about what we can do as a town council. Obviously we can influence others, I'm not saying we shouldn't. Alongside it would be the resolution we made to have a community-led climate action group as well alongside. So hopefully through that mechanism, they would be doing the talking to businesses, encouraging businesses. So that's the subtle difference, really.
Councillor Carroll?
I'm just trying to find this in the email, and I haven't managed to track it down yet.
Sorry, what an email, sorry.
Your draft plan.
It was in the first version that went out, but not the second, Peter. I can share my screen if that would help. Or,
is it in the body of one of the documents then?
Yeah.
It's in the body of the first agenda reports pack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have your hand up, Stuart?
Yes. Sorry, Chair. I'm not sure. No, I was just going to say, I'm up for this. I really, really am. But we need to do, instead of telling other people what to do, we lead by example. And I would like to see a plan, a proper plan, so that we will do this, that, and the other. Use some KPIs, some key performance indicators. If we're going to do X amount of LED bulbs by X amount, well, let that be a KPI. It needs, instead of just talking about things, let's get and do it. And the first thing we need to do is get that list. This is what we're going to do, and are we meeting those performances by such and such a date? And then we can tick it off every month. That's the proper way to do it. But there you go. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lovelock.
Thanks. To really reiterate what Councillor Davies just said. So I'm involved in a number of projects at the moment for work where the starting point is very much a baseline. So we get that in place, and then we're able to monitor the progress against that through all of the excellent ideas that are factored in here. But what that also allows you to do is to identify where the value, where the opportunities are for the greatest impact on climate emissions, and where some of these suggestions might be outside our remit. As we've talked about already in this meeting, responses to planning applications, we can obviously advocate for carbon neutral properties, but having that in here is likely to be outside of our remit. So recognising that we wouldn't be able to make so much progress in tangible terms for that, but that could be something that we maybe develop an advocacy plan on how to work with Denbighshire on something like that. I do have a number of specific things.
You've gone, Robbie.
You muted yourself, Councillor. Sorry.
Oh, that's strange. I know you said we can feedback separately. So one comment that Friends of the Earth are already working on the energy efficient homes as one of their projects. So that's maybe something to link with them on. The ethical banking services, I know was discussed previously, and there's a waiting list. So it would be good to maybe, even if it's something we want in the medium term, something that we could start sooner rather than later. And then finally, just to say that there is funding available for some of these things in here. And so again, as Councillor Davis mentioned, if we have a proper plan, that will help guide us in where we can secure funding to be able to do some of the baseline work, so that when additional funding comes for things like biodiversity or green infrastructure, then we are in a good position then to apply for those funds, rather than have to pay for it all out of our precept and other income. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Councillor Haddy.
Haddy? Yeah.
Just a quick inquiry. In the last of your short-term actions, work with the town team to ensure the development-based plan includes policies to encourage blah, blah, blah. Of course, the town team is about to conclude its task and finish task, and its final report stage is coming together now, I understand, with the grant that the clerk applied for on behalf of the town council. So, presumably that task and finish would be either separate or move into a different group, as it's a fairly important part of the short term.
Well, I'd come back on a couple of things. Again, there is status and evaluation, so I'm expecting this to be reviewed regularly, so that we would come back where we are, and those done in 6 months I anticipate would be done in 6 months, and then we'd evaluate them. Again, I appreciate this is our stock and holdings. You know, if we talk about green landers, we've only got cemetery. That's all we've got. So we've, you know, in essence, we're talking about town hall and cemetery, Centenary Square, and others. So a lot of the LED lights are already changed. A lot of the LED lights are under our control, and we're all done. There's a few left to do. The others are removed for performances to ensure that those. So, you know, as I say, this would be a working document. It is restricted to what we can do, but it's hopefully to say, look, we're making an effort. We're trying to address these issues as soon as possible. And then alongside that, we would have a community plan, which we need to get up and running, and allow them the facilities to, when they can in the town hall and everything, and move things forward. So that's the idea.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be feasible or not, but if there was expertise in the town for people to improve their houses by solar panels, whatever, if that could be made available as a start, so that we could support local people to make their homes more energy efficient by providing the first step that people could take to find out more information on doing it.
That's a valid point, and that's where I suggest that our community grant scheme perhaps could be focused this year on issues that either climate change. So if somebody wanted some funding to do a feasibility study on a group of houses, or to actually bring it forward, then, you know, that's the other suggestion, that we focus this year our community grant scheme on elements that address climate change, not as open as it used to be in the past. And that could be used, as Councillor Palmer says, to allow people to, as I say, examine something, get a bit of seek on money to take that forward. So again, yes, that's something that I'm trying to infer in the plan.
No. Can I just say, I can't actually see everybody, so if there's anybody who's got a hand up, I'm not responding, you just need to shout at me.
Councillor Lovett is next, and then Councillor Carroll again, Chairman.
Thank you. So yeah, I think from the Chitterlow webinar that we did on homes and energy, there was a lot of interest in the housing and heating issue. And we do definitely have some technical expertise in the town in this area, as well as a lot of support from Denbighshire, from the officer that spoke at that meeting. However, it shouldn't be underestimated the cost involved in the work, and particularly in retrofitting older houses. So, like, I think most analysis indicates that that kind of thing really needs government support to incentivise, and there's a lot of work going into training up people across the region to be ready to take that on when that government funding materialises, hopefully as a result of the COP26 discussions in November this year. So that I believe that will come, but is probably not something of the scale that we can take on as the town council. I would really. This has come up a couple of times recently. There's a few funds so floating around at the moment: the Levelling Up Fund, the Community Renewal Fund, and both of those provide opportunities for towns and local authorities to take on some of the actions in this, particularly around biodiversity and green infrastructure. And if we have funding available, I would really strongly say that we should be maybe doing some consultation in the community about where, ideas of what people would like around those areas, but use that funding to potentially get some technical expertise on ideas and how much they would cost, so that we're in a good position to apply for these larger funds or to work with Denbighshire to apply for them, because I know Denbighshire are looking for ideas for them. I think I'd be happy to have a follow-up meeting and come back with a proposal, that would shortlist some ideas of where we could get that technical expertise and what it might look at, and so that we then get a plan in place. The example being, like, every year in March, around January, we talk about planting trees, but that's only one part of green infrastructure funding. And if we can be doing the assessments now, then come next January or next November, when the funding is available, we would have a plan in place on where we want things planted or grown or changed. So that would be my suggestion.
Councillor Carroll?
A few bits. There was in the correspondence somewhere a funded review of council buildings, I believe. I can't remember. I struggle with the email system, but there was some funding available to get the council estate, small as it is, reviewed. That's, if Gareth could look into that, that'd be great. Because there was free expert review on sustainability on the buildings. I struggle with the way the agenda changes come out, because I can't view two documents at once. So I've only just seen the documents, but things I think should be in there. One of the major impacts, the town hall users are a major impact, and as a council we should be able to influence that. So if we can make it a condition of using the town hall that you encourage the people that you're bringing to the town hall to use active transport, public transport or shared transport when possible, that will make a major reduction in the impacts of the council. Disposables, why should we let people using the town hall use disposables?
We don't.
So that's already in policy, right? I've not seen that policy.
Not use respectively. They've got to use.
Great.
Use it all.
I have a final question. I'm sorry.
One last thing. Just looking around at lawns, I'm trying to grow as many different things on my lawn as possible. So far, I think I'm up to about 10 or 12 species in flower this year. If we could have some kind of wild lawns competition or bee-friendly lawns competition that the council publicises, we don't have to supply money for it, just get people to enter, put £1 or £2 in, and then maybe use the money for wildflower seeds for those who might want to do it themselves, who haven't done so already.
I think that's the suggestion of Llangollen in bloom over long term, and improve Llangollen Centre by magically planting tree shrubs and fall displays.
That suggests to me very formal, tidy, not very biodiverse. So something a bit wilder might be nice.
We do need to educate people, because I'm aware, because I live just up from the health centre, that the grassy bank between the road and the health centre, when it was built, was planted with wild flowers. And as soon as we were a few weeks into the summer, people were complaining that it looked scruffy and hadn't been mown. Yeah. So there is a need to educate people with regards to the kind of biodiversity we can achieve in grassed areas and borders, and yeah.
Yeah. If we can get the message out that we've lost, what, 50, 60% of our biodiversity, and all those little critters are carbon-based, it's an important message. If we can help putting that out, it'd be great.
Thanks. It was just a clarification question, really. I can't remember where we ended up on the question about the community climate change committee. I felt that we had discussed that a lot of the what we were trying to do is to mobilise town groups and bring them together around particular actions, and that maybe the Chitterslow committee would be the way to work with those town groups, as that's already set up. And I'm particularly looking to those members that have been involved since the early days of Chitterslow, where it was very much a residents-led group. And so, yeah, so I was just hoping to clarify the final decision on whether it was another group that we're looking to set up to be that climate change committee, or whether it was Chitterslow. And linked to that, it says that the establishing the committee is the town clerk to do. And I just wanted to check what the difference is between the town clerk leading something and the LTC leading something. Because I would have thought that would be a LTC, if not CC.
Well, the difference is you made a resolution to establish the Community Climate Change Committee.
Okay.
It's a resolution of the council which I now have to implement. So we need to set up a Community Climate Change Committee, which will be separate to the town council. I mean, I'll set it up. Obviously, we've had a few problems with, not being able to meet. The webinars went quite well. I had raised it with Councillor Carroll. Do we want to move down actual meetings in the initial period? So get people around the table to start talking about setting up the committee. Get the committee up and running, get a chairman, get itself operative, shall we say, and then they would be identifying exactly what you said. There's a need to look at retrofitting businesses, and then they could possibly say, right, can we apply, or I'm going to say a member of that committee, say Friends of the Earth, would then apply to a community grant scheme for funding to do a seed corn or extra funding to do that piece of work. So it's trying to tie that's how I guess
like my concerns remain about I feel like that's an entirely duplicating mechanism than as particularly with the example you just used of engaging Friends of the Earth. If we've already resolved within Chitterslow to bring on a number of new community members to the Chitterslow committee, people that are active in the community and doing things, and so I just feel like those are the conduits for engagement and adding a new group. If that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. But it seems to be
that was presented by Councillor Carroll and was approved, that we set up a community climate change committee. So I'm just acting on a resolution the council has decided.
I understand.
Back when the motion came, I will set one up as soon as I can. I don't envisage that to be controlled or run by the council. I think we set it up as a parallel organisation to drive those things that the community and individuals can do. And this plan is saying, right, we're trying to do what we can, try and encourage others to follow suit. That's the rationale behind it. I mean, clearly, if you want to change it, that was the resolution Councillor Carroll brought forward. If that wants to be changed to say that is now, to be added to the remit of the Chitterslow committee, that would have to come back to full council to be discussed again.
I think it's been a long time since. Sorry. It's been a long time since we made that resolution, and we've not got anything yet. So it'd be great to get that going. The fact that the Chitterslow committee only meets every few months would make it very difficult to drive anything forward. So I think a separate committee that isn't subject to such strictures would be great. So the sooner we can get that set up, if you can, that'd be great, Gareth.
That's fine.
Might be something that we could do as individuals is perhaps publicise that such a committee is being put together and find interested parties who and could get in touch with an interest. Yes.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
If members could advise me who they would like to set up an inaugural meeting,
I
get the ball rolling then.
I'd just like it noted that we have been trying quite hard as Flow to meet more regularly, and that has been has not been administratively possible. So I'm keen to establish. I remain keen, as we've had a discussion on every few months. I remain keen to have monthly Chitterlow meetings, and I would like that. We can have that discussion again next month in the annual meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else? Right, shall we? Anybody like to propose move this forward?
Move.
Thank you. Anybody like to second that? Thanks, Peter. Anybody?
Chairman.
Any objections? No. Thank you.
Chairman, final report is the coronavirus control plan at levels in Wales. The most recent publication in March from the Welsh Government. I apologise it didn't go out with the original before the extra planning applications came in. Taking on board what Councillor Carroll said, perhaps in the future I'll just do an addendum of applications received after the event, so that you will not get a changed agenda, you will just get an additional addendum of planning application. May make things a bit simpler.
Can I point out, Gareth, the date on the top is 2020, where it should be 2021. I assume it's the same. We looked at 12 months ago.
Sorry, it should be the same meeting, not a retrospective meeting. The control plan came out, as I say, 9th of April, so it's the most current position we're in. I must say it's not as easy to understand as previous directions, but we're clearly moving from alert level 4 into alert level 3. Things may change on Friday. The technical advisory group notices I'm getting make things look quite favourable, and as you know, certain adjustments are made as we speak. But the purpose of this report really is to look at how we reopen the town hall again. As you know, we put all the rest of the protections in place to make it as COVID secure as possible. I don't like saying safe because I don't think it's 100% safe. It's secure as we can make it. And we've reassessed the business. Charlie and I have reassessed the risk assessment we did back in September to look if it's still relevant under the new guidance, which it is. Not to prolong it, because I think the report outlines very much what the intent is. I was also concerned that there is a view that everything's going to be hunky-dory in the town hall fairly quickly because people are listening to the roadmap, as it were, from England. Clearly, we have a different government and a different legislation, and we are dependent on Welsh legislation to change. And one of the key ones is that the 2 metres still applies in Wales. And at the moment, even if we were to open the doors for a full, say, operatic performance, we'd have to reduce upstairs to 25 seats and downstairs to 63. I think on that basis, it would not be economically viable. However, we are taking bookings on the basis that, people have to recognise it will be dependent on the alert level in place when they do the performances, or indeed when they come in and do their rehearsing and set building, that they have to work within those criteria of the alert level in place. Therefore, as I say, the recommendations then is to reaffirm the fact that we've got risk assessment done on the 15th September, and that is still applicable. That we still need to meet remotely until the regulation of face-to-face meetings, and also in compliance with the new Section 47 of the Local Government Act, Election Wales Act, which means we've got to allow people that aren't present, persons who aren't present, to attend meetings as well, either by telephone or by video conferencing. At the moment, we don't have that facility in the chamber to allow that. So that's something, as I say, will be addressed by asset management in the body of the report. Carry on work arrangement for town council staff and access to town council offices. Control the opening of the town hall to user groups as identified at risk assessment and in accordance with the national alert levels in force. And given that these things are changing quite rapidly, save coming back from speak to the town council, delegate that responsibility to myself to make the changes in any access on other facilities as the alert levels change, so we can rapidly respond to changing circumstances. In the body of the report, we've also highlighted this is all dependent on the new government, and things could change very suddenly at the end after May. And we could have a different control plan, so it's a very fluid situation. So it's to give that flexibility, so we can respond and get the building back to its maximum use as soon as possible. I mean, on that point, as we speak, there are only 2 bookings in for the rest of the year. So again, I must urge caution on spending plans and things like that, because that's not to even hit our reduced target for this year of 10,000. You're only talking about £2,000 to £3,000 advance bookings at the moment, and if they can go ahead. So that is the other recommendations, Chairman. If members want questions or move to
question. Anybody like to comment on question? I just because it's say Gareth, it's a kind of a very fluid and rapidly changing situation. Might I suggest that in addition to the recommendations written there, that there's a report for future meetings going forwad, yes, as to, that might be a report just to say that nothing's changed, but to keep us up to date on what the regulations are for monthly meetings.
Yeah, that's fine. I can report what has happened, rather than asking you to do something which takes a lot of time. So if there are changes, I will report to the next meeting exactly where we are. So I think the next one is, can't remember the dates now, May 22nd, is it, where I think we could resume dance classes of up to 15 people. So that would
particularly as at the moment there's a kind of three weekly review, in terms of regulations. It would seem appropriate for it to be a kind of monthly update.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm guessing I don't know how other colleagues feel, but it might also be appropriate for the asset management committee to kind of meet and just have some input into what's happening and give themselves a greater understanding of why and what and how. Councillor Haddy? Can't hear you, John.
Sorry about that. Am I back audible again? Yep. It would be useful if asset management, say, met monthly if necessary, because as matters are moving quite quickly, decisions do need to be made. However, there are principles on how much you expend in order to keep a booking going, because some of these bookings generate very little at the moment to open up a whole building for. I know it, but it's a policy decision. It's needed quite apart from a practical one. So, if necessary, the asset management can meet quite regularly. Unfortunately, the chairman's disappeared at the moment. So, that might be something to think of.
Melvin? Can't hear you, Melvin.
Melvin.
Could we then, right, what about making sure that the asset management does meet monthly just for the time being, and perhaps on the recommendation E, we delegate the responsibility to lifting those restrictions to both the asset management committee and the town clerk. Would that make sense?
Well, not all these restrictions relate to assets, do they? you know what I mean?
No. But the asset management does run the town hall, doesn't it?
It doesn't run the staff of the council, though, does it?
That's true.
And staff issues, and there's also, you know, I mean, I'm quite happy, as I say, as Councillor Paddy correctly says, if there's a need for the asset management to meet because there's something that is beyond that I wouldn't wish to take responsibility for, then I would automatically call an asset management if it's an asset issue, and report to council on that basis. But the idea was to be able to move a bit quicker without having to bring a report forward. You know, we're now 7 days in advance of the meeting to get the meeting. We want the agendas out. So talking, you know, at least 11 days, or 8 days by the time the decision is ratified, and you can go back. So the idea was that if the delegated authority, so if we can reopen as soon as we can, we will, and then I'm happy to report that position to the next town council meeting. If a decision is too complex, if it's a you know a Homer Simpson question too difficult, is not doing, and then I'll come back to council. It's just to give the
is in front of his camera. Yes.
On?
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah.
I was going to suggest because things are changing so rapidly, delegates lifting restrictions to the town clerk in consultation with the town mayor and deputy. Did you hear me? Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess a halfway house between.
It was just having additional consultation.
Yeah.
And were we going to review at each meeting? I wasn't quite clear.
Yes, we said that we just agreed that we're going to review this, and it'll be reported back at each meeting we have. Yeah.
I thought so. Yes, I'm just trying to confirm that. So my recommendation is alert levels to the town clerk in consultation with the mayor and deputy mayor.
I'm guessing the message I'm taking from this, it's about us being informed about what's happening and what decisions are being made. It's that, you know, if you could nod if that's, I'm summing up. Yeah, I guess the last few comments is about us being informed and understanding what's changing and how we're responding to it. Yeah. Okay, anybody else?
There's no problem with that last amendment, and as I said, we can then advise either, as I said, if it's a decision that I believe is too difficult and needs, when you know, if I was liable to open myself to some difficult position, I will certainly bring it back to council to get a view.
Put it up, Chair. Put it up, Chair. Come on, let's move on.
Right. Anybody else want to say anything? Anybody like to propose?
Proposed. Sorry, sorry, Chairman. I know you're on the move, but what do you propose then?
Sorry.
We
are proposing the amended recommendations. Yes.
It's Councillor Palmer's a proposition, and hasn't he got a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, fine.
So it's the A2E with the subject to that caveat is what the recommendation will be. Yeah.
Yep.
And also an additional recommendation that it's reported back each month to council. That's not written down here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so those have been amended. Anybody like to propose the whole list now?
I'll propose it.
Mr. Mile. Thank you. Any objections? No. Thank you. Move on. Where are we now?
Correspondence.
Correspondence. Thank you. Yeah.
The correspondence from the police was just an update of email addresses, which I forgot to mention where it was. So just note that in the light of the changes with Martin. But if the chairman would allow, I think the chairman and Councillor Glover received a copy of an email today from Drossy Bikes, who are taking over, or who are now occupying the premises on Parade Street with a social enterprise. They are submitting an application to Proclaimia Wind Farm to support the social enterprise, and are looking for a letter of support from the town council. I mean, obviously, Drossy Bikes gave a very good presentation at one of the webinars, and it does hit a lot of the buttons about what they're trying to do, which is move people to a different mode of transport, electric bikes, and all those aspects. So I can't see any reason why we don't send a letter of support, but it's up to members to decide if they want to do that.
Move that one, Chair.
I didn't hear what it was.
It's Drossy Bikes.
Just quickly, there, a couple who, if my memory serves me right from the webinar, are setting up a business whereby they kind of upgrade and recycle bikes and take old bikes and turn them into electric bikes and to encourage people to cycle. Robin probably knows a lot more than I about it.
I get the gist. I get the gist.
Yeah.
I think it's really worthwhile just actually reading the what they're asking for, so we're aware that of what they're planning, because I think it's really exciting for the town. So the funding is for just under £10,000, and they're looking to upskill and educate people about cycling, particularly women and young people, and then to promote the benefits of using e-cargo bikes to local businesses and families. And they're going to be offering training for people in cycle confidence sessions and basic bike maintenance, as well as the ability to borrow an e-bike for a period to give it a go before buying, basically. So really, really exciting, and I think it's great for Parade Street, great for Llangollen, great for the Valley.
Yeah, proposal.
Move. I move, Chair. I move.
Robin, seconded it. Thank you.
Okay, and that's all the correspondence, Chairman.
Thank you. Any reports from anybody? Anybody is?
Chair, if I may. Am I okay, Chair?
Councillor Davis wants to speak. Councillor Chairman. Go ahead, I think, Councillor.
Yeah, am I okay to speak? Yeah. Okay. The emergency weight restriction order. I've been waiting for information from Jim Hall, the engineer in charge in Denbighshire, about the status of and when surveys were last done. I'm still waiting, although I've reminded him several times. I did see a DCC engineer at World's End surveying a small bridge there the other day. He said he wasn't aware of any survey been done. He promised to chase Jim Hall up. So, okay, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I've done some more research. It would seem that a 26-ton EWR would be a good thing to aim for. That will cover the bigger tour buses. It'll cover six-wheeled wagons for deliveries and stuff like that. But it would stop the log wagons, which I noticed have started using Castle Street again. Farm vehicles would be exempt, and the 26-ton limit, would cover larger tour buses. The MP supports us. The MS Ken Skate supports us. He promised me he would do something, but he hasn't. But there you go. And I've got a letter off him in 2017 saying he supported this and he would get his officers. They would work with us to do that. So we do have the support of Ken Skates. We've got the support of one county councillor. Another one was a bit scathing about the idea, but there you go. So I think what we need to do to move this forward is if Gareth would write officially to Denbighshire County Council saying that we wish to lobby for an EWR. We've got the big boys and girls in support of this. The town council is in support of it. Let's get it moving, please, if that's okay with everybody.
Anybody got any objections to that? Thank you, Gareth, if you could do that. Yeah.
I don't have an objection to that comment. Just to say, it would be good, Councillor Davies, in the discussions as you approach them, would just be to continue the continuity of the discussions that have been had previously about the improved signage from the 483, changes to the directions of.
Yes, it's okay, it's Councillor. Yeah, that's all in hand.
Yeah. So that those are continued and we show joined up working. Thank you.
Yeah, Ken Skates did promise that. Thank you.
Indeed.
Peter, you had your hand up, or did you put it down again? Yeah, fine, put it down. Councillor Brindley?
Yeah, you muted. Yeah. Have I muted you by mistake? Sorry. No. Maybe my fault, sorry.
Yeah, can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the John Matthews Educational Trust, we had our AGM. Been a difficult year for the students with lockdown and everything, but very pleased to say we were able to help 19 students with awards this year, totalling £10,540. So a bit of good news.
Excellent, well done.
Well done, well done.
Well done.
Excellent, Julian.
Who else?
Councillor Carroll.
Yeah.
The Naked Takeaway project, the reusable packaging initiative, that's still going forward. I've not been able to go to any of the committee meetings, even though they're online, because they're all in work hours. But I think they still haven't managed to find anyone in Llangollen that wants to take it on. What's on offer? The pizza boxes, that's just going to one business, which is already taken on. So they've got tiffin tins available for businesses that would want to use them for takeaway in the Llangollen area. Various businesses have been approached. I've contacted them, Maya's contacted them. So if anyone's got any contacts, the ideal would be probably the curry houses for tiffin tins, because that's what's available. So.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully, as we come out of lockdown, there will be more for us to report on the groups that we that the council on. There's a lot of groups that haven't met for some time, so hopefully, as we come out of lockdown, we will get to meet more regularly. So thank you for that. Right, notice of motion of Councillor Davis. Would anybody like to propose that we? Thank you, Councillor Lovelock. Thank you, Councillor Brindley. Off you go, Stuart.
Right, thank you very much, Chair. I really am excited about this. Hydropower on the Dee, used since the 13th century, some say part of the success of Llangollen. The climate emergency declarations we were talking about earlier on, this would be a superb example for this council to show the way for the town. We could do all sorts of things. The Llangollen Power Company used to be the company, I believe. We could sell electricity as OVO and people like that do. We can generate power and sell it ourselves. We can generate power and charge cars. Green D Power is the strapline I would like to use. I think I would like to have a task and finish group set up. And when I hear those words, I think, oh God, groan, here we go. But if we did a very lively group, got it together. I've talked to the Glucanog funding people. They are excited about this idea. We can apply, if we get up as a group, there are two sites, big ones in Llangollen. There's Mile End Mill, there's Lower D Mill. There's turbines at both of them. I don't know whether you've ever had a walk down there and seen a cast iron turbine that's sitting there, because that's what it was. That used to produce the power for the mill. And there's one like that under the ground up at Mile End Mill. Something like that, Mile End Mill, one can produce about 85 kilowatts. We could put two in down at Mile End, at Lower D Mill, which will produce 170-ish kilowatts. Quite a substantial amount of power. I've met with Ted Stowell of Allied Hydropower a couple of times, once with a clerk, came along to have a look. A really, really serious engineer, knows what he's doing. He's the guy that set up Vivid Estates and built their hydropower generators. So he really knows what he's doing. He's excited me an awful lot. It's possible to do it either at Mile End Mill or at Lower D Mill. There are other smaller sites around which we could take a look at as well. It's not something we need to we would undertake lightly, because it would be a serious problem. However, this council has shown by the Chain Bridge project, by the Town Square project, that we are capable, or you guys are capable of doing something serious like this. So, as I say, if we can set up a task and finish group, go and ask us some money off the Glucanog Forest to get this guy to produce it. He has done me a report, a very rough report, and I'll quote you some figures in a minute. But to do it properly, we need a full-blown report. Let's get the money off Glucanog. Let's get a report done. Let's have, as pointed one way or the other, and then once we have that information, we can then sort of make a decision which way we can go. The Glucanog lady I spoke to, she is intrigued. We do tick all the boxes with this. We would have to build, it means serious engineering to go on. We would have to build a training wall from the upper weir down to where the Lower D Mill is to get the water to it. Unfortunately, the weirs were built for a purpose, and that was to feed water to the mills, to the corn mill and to Lower D Mill. However, it can be done, and there is funding available. The MP has pointed us in the direction of there is money available from the new scheme, which is replacing European funding. The government is insisting it goes to councils, not to the Welsh government, because they have a habit of spending it in South Wales instead of across the whole of Wales. So if that is the case, all of a sudden this council could perhaps get their hands on some serious wedge. So let's form a task and finish group. Let's get the initial steps underway. And by the way, I'll just throw some figures at you. If we put 2 turbines in at Lower D Mill, you're talking about, if we sell the electricity ourselves, we'll have an annual revenue of about 117,000 quid. If we sell it to the grid, we only get 55,000. Now, these are best case scenarios, but somewhere in between 54 and 117,000 quid a year revenue is easily obtainable. It will be a big spend. The project for Mile End Mill, you're talking about $750,000, and I don't suppose we get much change out of that for the one for Lower D Mill. Something really, really, really to think about. But let's think about this. Let's think about Llangollen Town Council selling electricity. I'll leave it with you. Go ahead. Shout at me.
Peter's had his hand up for some time. Peter? Right, Peter doesn't seem to want to talk. Robin?
Hi. Can you hear me? Yes. So sounds brilliant, Stuart, and really exciting. I know that the idea has been floating around for the 10 years or so, and a couple of studies been done previously. So it'll be great to find a way to take them forward. 2 comments and a question. First, I'd like to declare a possible conflict of interest, but I've checked at work and it's not. But I work for the North Wales Economic Ambition Board, and this is my comments about one of the projects, but I'm not involved in it. So the Economic Ambition Board runs a project called Smart Local Energy, which is growth deal funding from UK and Welsh Government. And so they would be interested in having a discussion with the town on this. So I can do the introductions for that. And they also have suggestion of funding if you want to look at that alongside the Glucanog opportunity as well. And then the other comment is about if you were looking to get a community, if you are talking about Mile End Mill, my neighbour, I talked with my neighbour Bob, who owns the land opposite, in case there's any kind of land issues or kind of anything, he'd be interested in being on the task and finish group if you were looking for a community representative with a involvement in land ownership there, if that's helpful. And then a question was, I understood from the last study done into this that the main opportunity for generation was at Horseshoe Falls, and I was just wondering if that has been looked at and why that's been why you've gone with those two sites and not the larger site with larger potential energy.
Okay, if I can answer your question, Councillor Lovelock, we did think and look at Horseshoe Falls. The problem arises, we get involved in the Canal Boat River Trust, and I like those people, but they move exceedingly slowly, as my experience. So yes, that would be the perfect place. We wouldn't have to build anything. It's there. We could take the water straight up where it feeds the canal, and just use the power, and it carries on going in the canal. But the thought of having to deal with another bureaucracy fills me with horror. This wants to be boom, 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 boom. We be in charge. We want to move it forward.
Thank you. I have contact. If you mean the Canal and River Trust, I have one contact there who is pretty dynamic. So if it's worth a discussion with them before you completely rule them out, then happy to make that introduction.
Just a technical point. That's in Chanticleer Community Council, and therefore we should be. We'd have to work with Chanticleer. I think it'd be appropriate to work with Chanticleer Community Council if we're going to do something in that area. Yeah.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes, I think it's a great idea, but why stop there? Could you also look into the possibility of wind power as well? We've got a couple of sites above the town where we've got aerials that seem to catch the wind, and if there are towns and communities that set up their own wind generation, so why limit it to water? Why not look at the possibility of wind generation as well?
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. If I may come back to this chair, just to keep things moving. I'm in agreement with you. Wind power is fine. We have to deal with the AONB, but you see, taking it one step further, the Wenfruid is a form of tip. I know tips where they take the methane out of it instead of it leaching out to go into the atmosphere and killing the ozone layer. They burn it, and methane is relatively a clean thing. So you could put an internal combustion engine on the tip. There's one in Johnstown on the tip there, and it just sits there feeding gas out the tip. The important words are Llangollen Power Company. Let's okay, small steps first. Let's start thinking, and then we need ideas like that to feed in, and then we decide which way to go.
Councillor Greenlee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think it's a great idea. When I read about it, the first thing that came to mind was when I had just started on the council was the late Graham Jarvis, who always had a dream of a hydro scheme to put underwater lights up the side of the river and underneath the bridge. But going on from there, we've got a natural asset there. It's been used for hundreds of years for power.
Yep.
And just go for it. I think it's a great idea. I'd really like to see something like this succeeding. But as you said, succeeding quickly, getting the information in, working with it quickly, not dragging it out and losing the impetus.
Okay.
There's only one major fly in this ointment, and that is that we don't own any land over which water flows. So presumably you've had preliminary discussions with the landowners and the riparian rights owners and the actual owners of the water, because it's a protected water course, and it's within reasonable feasibility, because otherwise you can waste a lot of time doing this.
Yeah. Well, you see, going back to the one about the canal, I'm loath to get involved with a third party. You see, Mile End Mill, we've been talking with the owner. There is a plan there. It's got planning permission. It's got the whole lot there, the whole 9 yards, ready to go, and he's up for it. The other one down at Lowerdy Mill, Denbighshire County Council owns the land and the riparian rights there. So we could, in actual fact, it's quite intriguing, Lowerdy Mill, because if we put in I've learned new words. It's elite. It's like the canal with the training wall brings the water. Mm-hmm. If we do it properly, the canoeist can actually come down over the town falls there, and instead of scrambling up the bank and destroying the triple SI, they can actually get back into the Leith and paddle up to where they started from and go round and round in circles. So they don't have to even load them on the vans. So there's all sorts of stuff like that. Plus, of course, don't forget, Denbighshire County Council is going to reinstate that bank and that building where the water used to be taken in years ago. So if we get our acts together, right, and looking at you, Councillor Mile, as well, if we get you on board, I know you were interested in doing some of this power generation stuff. If you can use your influence, get to talking to James Dean and his bosses and say, before you do anything, let's just think about this. Can we do something to get together to get this done? So answering your question, Councillor Haddy, yes, yeah.
Councillor Lovelock.
I just suddenly have a shiver about the ownership. I love the idea of the Dee Valley Energy company or
Dee Valley Power, Councillor.
Sorry,
Dee Valley Power.
Dee Valley Green Power. I love the idea. I guess I just have a shiver that we're going to end up in a similar situation around who owns what. If the ownership issue isn't resolved, quite upfront. Obviously, it's come up in Cyfarfod 2020 discussions that we don't have authority over roads, so therefore it's difficult to get involved in it. And so the same with this. If it's privately owned, maybe we should just make sure that we address that in the task and finish group and resolve that before things progress.
Yeah, the word is task and finish.
To happen, I think, is that we're starting to ask the questions that the task and finish group will ask. Yeah, I'll let Melvin go. Yes, Melvin.
Chairman, Councillor Peter Carroll's been had his hand up.
Sorry.
Hi. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. One quick question. Your motion mentions a small-scale pilot.
Yeah.
As a proof of concept. What are you thinking there?
76 kilowatts or 80 kilowatts is small. Okay, I used to be in charge of power generation in Africa, and 80 odd 150 kilowatts is not very big.
Okay, cool. In some of the original surveys, they were talking about the Corn Mill as the small scale proof of concept.
No, something a bit bigger than the Corn Mill, but a bit smaller. I tell you what, I'd love to put a decent generator in. We'd need about 1,500 houses, 2 kilowatts, 3.5 megs of power. That would be a serious generator, but unless we could put a wheel just below the bridge, or Archimedes screw we thought of, but they only go up to they don't go big enough for what we envisage. Task and finish group. All these questions can be asked and bounced around.
Definitely, I'm in favour.
Finally, because he had his hand up last comment, Melvin.
Oh no, great idea. I'm happy to facilitate wherever I can with Denbighshire. Great idea, Stuart. Well done.
Yeah, okay.
Any volunteers to join a task and finish group?
Me!
Peter Carroll, Councillor Gwynley, anybody else? Well, they've got 3 of you to start.
Right, okay.
Stuart.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, if we leave it with the clerk, he can get it together if he would, please. And then and then we'll start bouncing ideas around, and let's get some dosh and get your man to get us an official report.
Maybe you could keep us informed, Stuart, as to what you do and how you're progressing. That'd be great.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem.
Not to prolong it, Chairman, but if we could just come back on, I totally agree with Councillor Lovelock, but don't forget what I said earlier. Possibly by this time next year, you'll be able to have the general power of competence, which would allow us to do these things. It would allow us to set up an energy company, because a member of the public can set up an energy company. I'm not saying, I'm not saying it's going to take 12 months, but there is that potentially could be a council-run facility or part of a community interest company or something like that.
We have a proposal from Councillor Davis. Would anybody else like to second that? Thank you, Councillor Brindley. Right, anybody, any objections? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Business of this evening. Yes, Stuart.
Thank you. No, I just say thank you, everybody.
That concludes the business for this evening. Can I apologise because I think I'm aware I've interrupted people a little bit. My hearing aid is not working, so yeah. I have a problem hearing certain things, so I think I might have interrupted people thinking they'd finished. Yeah, and I apologise for that. We'll have it repaired for our next meeting. Okay. So have a good evening. Yeah.
Cheers.
See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
See you all.